I feel bad for that.
All right, here we go. Hey, it is great to be back again. NFL Fantasy Matchup. We are a day early because of work schedules, everything like that. I think, Jed, Jimmy, people forget that we actually have a full-time job, and a lot of people will always ask, hey, why do you do this? Do you guys get paid for all this? I said, no, it's just something that we do for fun, and it's something that's different from our family life. It's different from our work life, that we watch football all the time. We play fantasy anyways, and so it's something that we enjoy. So good morning.
Hey, everyone. But if anyone wants to pay us, Tommy, we're more than happy to get paid. Don't be, don't be denying that.
All right. If there was a sponsor, who would it be? If there was a sponsor for this particular podcast, who would you want it to be, Jed?
Maybe like DraftKings or one of the gambling sites. Someone with money, and then they can support us.
Yeah. DraftKings is putting up a lot of money. See, I'm more of a local sponsor. I was trying to think of a sponsor where you can play off the 3 people on there. I haven't thought about it. But
how about the Chicago Bears? Here locally, we could do the Bears. That would be awesome.
Hey, on a separate note, before we start, have you guys seen the special that Burger King is running? That if you buy their crypto meal, which is you spend at least $5, they will give you a cryptocurrency.
Like what? Like what do they give you? A Dogecoin, or like what do you get?
Random. You'll guarantee at least 1 Dogecoin. It could be 100 Ethereums. It could be 1,000 Bitcoins, and it's random.
It's not going to be 1,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
but that's pretty smart. I really like that. Actually, that's really interesting. I'm working with some banking companies, and one of the things they're talking about is they have to get experts in crypto because it's so hot. So that's really interesting. I like it.
Well, so I was just thinking about this because when Tommy told me, I was like, whoa, for a company like Burger King, like a pretty mainstream company, to actually like do something like this, they must have seen enough interest from their potential customers to actually run a campaign like this.
Well, it doesn't cost them anything, if you think about it, because if they give like 0.1, Dogecoin, that's like 10 cents. That's like less than the Happy Meal toys. So,
but think about it. Like, so Tommy and I went with our girls, right? With the 50th anniversary of Disney, you know how many times we've been going to buy Happy Meals so that we can get those toys? But I was like, with Burger King, I was like, that's a big thing for them to do something like crypto, because it might get people. I mean, I actually would consider going to Burger King. I actually just uploaded their app, so I can do it now.
Yeah, so you have to upload their app, go in, order at least $5 meal through the button that says order crypto meal. And then from that point on, it signs you up. And when I did that, then a separate email gets sent to you, says click on to receive your reward of crypto. And it was 1 Dogecoin, but you have to have Coinbase in order to do that.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's smart too with Coinbase. Think about it. Like if I don't have Coinbase, here's the only problem with Coinbase. I don't know if you guys use Coinbase. It's so hard to get an account and to talk to someone on Coinbase. So that's the only reason I've been reading that a lot of people don't like Coinbase, is because they said just to get authorized an account and talk to somebody, it can take months to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have several. So I trade off of probably like 4 different platforms, and Coinbase is one. But yeah, I agree. But right now, the key is that crypto is becoming mainstream. And this is another step in that direction where the average Burger King customer is now going to have heard of crypto. So that's really great.
What if one of these apps sponsors it, like Voyager? Because I use Voyager.
Yeah.
And they entered into a partnership with the Dallas Mavericks, and I actually really like Voyager.
Oh yeah, we should get sponsored by a cryptocurrency. That's what we should get sponsored by. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, in terms of prop bets, Jed, I know you like prop bets. There was a guy in New Jersey who made $1,000 bet for Mike White to be the highest passer in terms of total yardage last week. He won. He won $125,000 on a $1,000 bet.
Wow, I do love prop bets. That is a really good one. That's
Did you guys hear the talk that Mike White, if he does another week pretty well, he could remain the starter for the rest of the season, and they're going to be like, heck with Zach Wilson.
Wow. So okay, so you guys are you stole my thunder because that was gonna be one of my picks this week. The Jets are 10-point underdogs to the Colts. I think the Jets are gonna cover. I don't know if they're gonna win, but I think they're gonna cover the spread. So that was one of my picks.
No. I would bet a lunch with you, Jed, that the Colts will beat them handily and cover.
Okay. Well, hey, we should bet a Dogecoin.
Yes. Let's bet one Dogecoin because I believe that Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman will run all over the Jets, and Mike White will. He did well, but they figured him out. There's a week-long tape, and he will not do as well as this.
I don't know. I mean, I can see it the other way, though, from a story perspective, right? You can see that Mike White, who came out of nowhere, who replaced the number 2 pick in the NFL draft for this year, ends up becoming the starter. And, I mean, it's actually a pretty good story. I can see that story playing out.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to bet a Dogecoin because I don't like Dogecoin. I only buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. So.
How about Shiba?
No, I'm not buying Shiba. But yeah, let's have that bet. We'll see what happens.
All right, we'll do a bet. Whether it's a lunch bet where I send you lunch or you send me lunch or a sandwich or whatever it is, we'll do that.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, big controversy, tested positive for COVID. He's out for this week's game, and they haven't formally announced that Devontae Adams is back. He should be back. Jordan Love is starting for his first game. Jim, what do you think of that?
I don't know if you saw the headlines, but I think the headlines in most of the Wisconsin newspaper is this is Jordan Love's shot to show that he can replace Aaron Rodgers, right? Like throughout the entire season, the one question, and I think this will come up again if Jordan Love does well, is Aaron Rodgers going to stay in Green Bay next year? And my guess is that the Green Bay folks are looking at this and say, if Jordan Love does well, we might be able to get rid of Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, I totally agree. You guys have like stolen both of my picks. So my other pick was I really like Jordan Love going into this game. They're playing the Chiefs. They're 7.5-point underdogs to the Chiefs. I think the Packers are going to rally. I think the Chiefs are as bad as we have all seen, and especially the defense. And so I think the Packers are going to cover and maybe outright win. I will say though, Tommy, I think the bigger story is not just that Rodgers has COVID. You guys got to remember. He basically lied. He said he was immunized. So he lied. So not only is he going to miss this game, so he's at least 10 games. If he comes back for the following week, 11, he can't come back until Friday, meaning he will have no practice time with the team. And then on top of that, the NFL should be fining the Packers because he was totally unmasked in several situations. And so we got to see what happens out of that.
Because there are NFL protocols for those who are vaccinated and those who are unvaccinated. Aaron Rodgers, in the midst of lying, saying that he was immunized, compromised all of that. And in some sense, it's going to come back and bite him.
Well, we'll see. That's why they're curious to see if the NFL will really come down hard on the Packers or not. And actually, they were already saying the Packers lead rep is pretty close to the NFL guy who would be levying the fines. So maybe they won't get fined.
Tom, so I traded you Aaron Rodgers. Who are you going to replace him with?
I don't know. I got to take a look at that. As we talk, I'll probably see who's on the waiver wire as well, too.
Tua's not a bad option this week.
I know. I don't think you're doing that well on that dynasty team league, are you?
No, probably in 8th place. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's me and Jimmy up at the top. We're fighting it out.
You know what? I'm very happy with my dynasty team. I don't know about you, Jed, but I was here's the thing: if you could draft really good players and have that core, you're pretty set for a while.
Oh, I knew after our very first draft when I got Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, I was like, I'm pretty much set for like 3 years, 4 years. Now we'll see if Henry comes back, but that was a big blow. Losing Henry was a big blow.
I would say in the dynasty league, like for instance, our basketball league, I spent so much money on Jokic and also Doncic. It has really helped me. I drafted well. And versus our dynasty league in NFL, I spread it around, and that hasn't helped me out as much as I wanted to.
No, but the secret, at least for your basketball thing, is you can have those 2 top players, but if you don't have good supporting people around you, that can really hurt you. The good thing is you have good supporting people. I think with the football, though, you took a gamble as, for instance, Antonio Gibson being one of your highest players, Calvin Ridley, and also Devontae Adams. On paper, they're all good. But Ridley's out. Devontae was out last week, and Gibson has not come to fruition.
Oh, if you look at my team in our keeper league, I have Hawkinson, Gibson, McLaren, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams, David Montgomery. Man, on paper, it looks great, but now I'm starting Corey Davis, Darnell Mooney, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard. That's what I'm relegated to. So, hey, Jed, let me go over to Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs, the Las Vegas Raiders have released wide receiver Henry Ruggs. The team announced on Twitter because he was speeding at 156 miles an hour, drunk around 4 a.m. Jed,
that's not why they released him. They released him because he killed somebody.
And it ended up killing someone. So there's nothing good happens at 4 a.m. in the morning when you're out drinking.
Oh, it's so sad. I mean, what a sad situation for that family. I think it was a 23-year-old that died. So yeah, I just feel really sad for them. But I mean, bottom line is Ruggs is not playing in the NFL again. I mean, he's done, and rightfully so. I think right now he's basically going to be looking at jail time potentially. So, and just and again, hate to switch over because I mean, I think very sad news and serious news, and we should be thinking of the family that lost someone. But from a fantasy perspective, I did pick up Bryan Edwards from the Raiders and I'm playing him a couple leagues this week because he's going to become the number one.
Well, that's what I was thinking about is because, I mean, is he worth the pickup, right? Because I think he's done pretty well so far, but don't you think the number one receiver is Darren Waller for that team?
It's still Waller, but the issue is Waller's coming off an injury. And so I still think, Edwards is going to get his, but I've got him in a couple flex positions. So, not saying he's going to be your number one, but he's worth a shot this weekend.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you argue that Hunter Renfrow might actually be better than Bryan Edwards? I get fresher with Edwards because he's so inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how they game plan. It's all going to come down to their game plan. You may see, that's why actually my oldest son, he went out and picked up Kenyon Drake because you may see more of a focus on the run game. Yeah. And so there could be more carries.
Well, I think the other reason why Kenyon Drake might be pertinent is because he's a good pass catching back versus Jacobs, who's just purely a runner. So that's why for me, like if I'm looking at the Raiders, right, I'm looking at both Renfrow as well as also Kenyon Drake.
Jim, Michael Thomas had a setback while recovering from ankle injury and announced Wednesday that he is out for the season. For all those who has had Michael Thomas, including myself, on the IL, he is done for the season.
Yeah, so I mean, the two people that I saw everyone start dropping this week, Deshaun Watson as well as Michael Thomas. I do think from a dynasty perspective, if this is a dynasty league, you should keep him, right? And figure out if there's a way you can trade that player if you're in first or second place for some assets. I still think there's some potential down the road for Michael Thomas, but when he plays next year, it's going to be like a year and a half, almost 2 years before he's played a game. And I think it's kind of funny how he went from being a number one receiver a couple of years ago to where he's at now.
Yeah. Jed, we were just talking about right before we recorded. Odell Beckham is expected. He has been sent home. He is expected to be away from the team for the rest of the season. Coach Kevin Stefanski told players that Odell Beckham is not on the team right now. I don't think they have plans to ever bring him back. Look, a lot of times they only have so many options. They could waive Beckham immediately. The only problem is if someone picks him up or someone doesn't pick him up, they are now on the hook for their $8 million. They can just put him on the injured reserve, or they just remain on the roster but stay inactive. If you had a gut feeling, what do you think is going to happen with Odell Beckham?
I think he'll get released. I think he's going to get released, but I think somebody's going to claim him on waivers. So I don't think he's going to become a free agent, but it'll be interesting to see who. But it's an interesting play. I was debating whether or not, from a fantasy perspective, to hold on to him. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't think it is because I think there was just too much of a drop in his production, and so there's going to be a lot to sort out. I want to see him actually get onto a team and then actually get onto the field, and then I might consider it.
Yep. The Rams need to be the best landing if he was dropped. That is the rumor that I'm reading. The Rams seem to be the best landing spot, Jim.
See, I really wish that they wouldn't go to the Rams, right? Like, because Deshaun Jackson went to the Rams,
and he got cut.
Yeah,
Deshaun
he got
Jackson got cut. Yeah.
Van Jefferson is really good. I mean, here's the thing: is if OBJ goes there, he'll disrupt the team. He'll disrupt the dynamics. Because he's going to want the ball. I don't know if you guys saw the 11-minute clip, but his dad sent an 11-minute clip to the Cleveland Browns showing all the times that he's been open. And so I think last year, if you looked at what happened with the Browns, right after OBJ got injured, they were fine. They did really well. They actually even made it to the playoffs and won that first game. So I actually expect Jarvis Landry, I expect the Browns to be pretty good without him as a distraction.
Now, on a separate note, do you think that Odell Beckham Sr. was the one who made the clip, or did someone do it for him and sent it over to him?
Oh, he didn't make that. He probably doesn't even know how to get onto the computer, man. He didn't make that.
I bet you it was the son who had his guys make it to send to his dad, and he's indirectly communicating that message to the team.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's really interesting, though, just like you were saying a second ago about Michael Thomas. I mean, it's just crazy how quick these players can fall from being cut. OBJ was my keeper pick. So he was my original, 5 guys that I was holding on to for the first 2 years in our keeper league. I dropped him after that second year. And it's just crazy. 2 years later, and he's pretty much gone. He's not even on rosters.
I kind of see him as Josh Gordon. Remember Josh Gordon? Josh Gordon was so good for the Browns. Actually, funny enough, they're all from the Browns.
Oh, I love Josh Gordon.
So good.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't control his drug addiction, right? And so he's just out of the league. I can see with Odell Beckham Jr., he's so focused on always just getting the ball and people wanting to throw the ball to him. He doesn't recognize the other members of the team as well, too.
Now, I would probably argue the best team, not the Rams. I actually think if he landed on the 49ers, he actually would do pretty well in that.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, any team that doesn't have a clear-cut number 2, he would be a great addition, I think. I think he still has the physical talent. I think mentally he wasn't there. But ideally he goes to a contender that can win. And I do think he is the kind of player, as long as you're winning, he'll stay a little bit more quiet and produce.
Watch him go to a team like the Patriots or something. Sometimes I think some of these guys, they need a hard-ass coach like Belichick to just keep them in line. Like Randy Moss. When Randy Moss, that one year he went to the Patriots.
That was insane.
He did good.
Oh, he was the MVP of the fantasy league that year. The year they went 17-0. Remember, he had over 20-some touchdowns. That was ridiculous. That was such a fun time.
Yeah. The problem with OBJ is that he does get injured a lot. Hey, speaking of injured a lot, Will Fuller, that man, everywhere he goes, he keeps collecting a paycheck. He is always out. It looks like he's going to be out with the finger again. Man, he is never on the team.
The coach did say he's day-to-day, but he's still weeks out, and they expect him to play this year. But you're right. I mean, he has so much potential when he does play, but he's always injured.
Yeah. Jim, Saquon Barkley tested positive for COVID-19, will be retested. Look, I mean, right now you're not expecting very much, but Devontae Booker has actually done decently well in his place.
Yeah. I actually don't mind. I mean, I have Devontae Booker in quite a few of my leagues. And so the last couple of weeks, he's done pretty well. Last week, he had, 15 touches? And he scored double-digit fantasy points. So for me, I think he's pretty good. Plus, there's so many people that are out, right, for Giants, and they're still out. Hubbard is still out for a while. Galladay is still out for a while. And so they're going to need a Booker. So I don't know if you guys think so. So in one of my leagues, it's a dynasty league. I had $600 left for free agency.
600? How many did you start with? 1,000?
We started out with 800, so I didn't spend anything.
Weird number.
Yeah, it's so 800. I got 600, so I spent 400 on Saquon Barkley because someone dropped him.
Wow!
And I was like, would you have spent $400 on Saquon Barkley?
It depends on who your other keepers are, but yeah, I mean Barkley's a top 5, running back, so.
I was surprised they dropped him.
Yeah. I mean, I think both the New York teams, the Giants and the Jets, they've really, I think this second half, it's like they're turning things around. And so there are points to be had there. And so, but long term, Barkley is a talent, man. That's somebody, if you could get him for free, that's not bad.
Jed, speaking of New York teams, you know which player didn't turn it around yet? Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, your guy. Kenny Galladay
is still out. He's still out.
Well, Daniel Jones, remember you were the big Daniel Jones fan.
Okay, so
my gosh.
Did you guys know this is Daniel Jones's last contract year for New York Giants? A lot of people are thinking Daniel Jones is going to get the heck out of New York.
Well, I mean, maybe he'll follow like Sam Darnold. I mean, Darnold, it looked like he was turning things around until he got hurt. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Jed, let me. On Tuesday, we were talking a lot about Derrick Henry. Do you have Adrian Peterson or Jeremy McNichols on any of your team? Was he a priority waiver pickup for you this week?
Nope, neither of them were. As I said, I think it's going to be a committee approach, and I think they're going to focus on the passing game. And so, no, I was looking elsewhere. I was looking for like the Bookers of the world. That's who I was trying to get.
Well, I'm not sure about you. I waited till everyone started used up all their waiver wire pickups, and I went and started picking up Boston Scott. And in some cases, I picked up Jordan Howard if I was really desperate.
Yeah, the one guy I got in a couple leagues, I don't know if you guys saw, I got Zach Moss in a couple leagues. I was happy with that because goal line back for Buffalo, I'm expecting them to score a lot of points. So
I was surprised because I usually wake up pretty early to look at the waiver wires, and once all the waivers passed, I was surprised that McNichols was still out. No one really kind of went after him. And so I picked him up in a couple of leagues just because I'm like, he's just sitting there. I might as well pick it up and try it out.
Jameis Winston, out. Calvin Ridley, out. Christian McCaffrey, designated to return. Most likely he'll be out. David Montgomery is still going to be out.
Wait, you think most likely McCaffrey will be out?
Yeah, so he was very limited in practice yesterday. And the coach says he's off the IR, but we're asking Hubbard to still be prepared to play this week.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's the same as last year. Remember last year we kept waiting for him to come in every week? Yeah. I don't even know if he ended up playing, but I know they kept pushing it off every week. And then David Montgomery, word out of the Bears is that he won't come back until after the Week 10 bye week.
So he'll probably be back at Week 11, which, by the way, Herbert has been doing really, really well. I've been very happy with Herbert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got Herbert starting.
Yeah. James Robinson avoided serious injuries day-to-day, did not practice on Wednesday. Gronkowski missed most of the game due to back spasms. There's a good chance that he probably is going to be out as well, too. Tunyon is out for the year. Let's see, what else is there? Dak Prescott, full goal for today's practice. I am hoping that he'll play this week because I really need a Dak Prescott. Other than that, Elijah Mitchell is the other one. Does not practice Wednesday because of his ribs, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Elijah Mitchell.
Hey, who do you guys like better, Chubba Hubbard or Mike Davis?
Chubba Hubbard.
Chubba Hubbard. But, I am a little hopeful for Mike Davis these days because with Calvin Ridley gone, they're going to need Mike Davis to step up. I have picked up Taja Sharp. He's the replacement as the number one receiver for Calvin Ridley. He's still out there in quite a few leagues.
Yep. Hey, how about Carlos Hyde? Have any of you guys picked up Carlos Hyde at all?
But I thought James Robinson's playing, right? Like he's okay.
But just in case, have anyone of you guys thought about Carlos Hyde?
I was going to until I found out that Robinson was going to be all right. Otherwise, I would have. Actually, that was going to be my number one. If we knew that Robinson was out, Carlos Hyde would have been my number one.
Hey, and just for a reminder for those who are watching, teams on bye. Washington football team. So you have McLaren, you have Gibson out. Buccaneers, everyone is out. Tom Brady, Godwin, Evans, Brown, Fournette is out. Lions, you have
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift is out. Hawkinson is out. Seattle, of course, you have Russell Wilson out. You have Metcalf. You have all those guys. So,
Tom, with that, the other thing I was reading, I don't know if you guys saw that. So they have the week this week. They have bye week next, and then the week after they have playing, and they're thinking Russell Wilson is going to come back after week 11. So most likely he'll come back week 11.
Yeah, and I picked him up in that one league. I think. I was so excited. I was
ready
like,
for the playoffs, right?
But I'm so behind in that league.
This is the logic, right, Jed, of why sometimes if there's really no good players on the waiver wire, Just allow people to use up their waiver wire ads and then move up on the priority. Then suddenly you get a Saquon Barkley or you get a Russell Wilson landing right there because someone gets desperate and you're right there with the first waiver wire pick.
Well, so two things. This is why I do not like leagues that have waiver wire based on priority. I think you should do an auction. I think that's much more fair. And then second, I don't like leagues that do snake drafts. They should all do auction drafts.
Well, I did accidentally drop Michael Pittman, and I'm still mad.
Oh, did you get it back? Or they said
no? Because my guess is somebody didn't read the note. So I woke up this morning to add Michael Pittman. Someone already added him, and I'm like, you know what? It was my mistake. I'm just gonna have to. But then I was looking, and I just saw that the last 2 weeks he scored 20 fantasy points in each team. I was like, that stinks.
But hey, why can't you go back to the commissioner and tell them? You sent the message out.
No, I don't want to be that person, so I just left it alone.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
But Jed, the waiver wire pickups, the one thing is, I actually think if you don't do auctions, then at least have the worst record gets the best waiver wire.
Yeah. Okay. That I agree with. I do. I mean, yeah. It's, for example, if there's a tie, definitely I want to help. So that's the other thing I would say is I don't like leagues that have too many bench spots. Like, I think the bench should be limited to 4 or 5 players because otherwise the pool of players available is too weak.
Yep.
Like our dynasty league is actually pretty good. Like, I wish there was another couple more because there are times where I was like, oh, I really need that player. But I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that there's still decent players out there you can get.
Exactly. That's why I think our bench is perfect. We got 4 plus like 2 IR spots. I think that's great.
Oh, the league that Jimmy and I are in, I don't like. I like the guys playing in it, but it's a 12-team league with 6 benches. It is not fun. If you're in last place, there's no wiggle room at all for you to move up.
Yeah, you should get that change next year. I had in my other league I've been in for 20 years. We just dropped 1 bench spot just this past year, and actually I'm going to push for another one next year.
Tom, we should do that. The one where we have it with our old friends. We should drop a couple spots because there's a lot
in our basketball keeper league. What has worked for us is there's only about 4 bench spots with basketball, so you see a lot of movement, and it makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Hey, we could talk about this later. It's only like a 30-second aside. Did you see how far ahead the Bulls have moved up in rankings these days for the NBA?
I said that.
3. Did you say? I was like, whoa, they're pretty high up there now.
All right, let's hold off on that because I want to go with Jed's picks for the week. And then from that point on, I want to go through some games. And then let's talk about basketball for a little bit.
Yeah. So, well, you guys already heard my 2 picks. We kind of stole some of my thunder, but I think one of the big ones again, Packers are 7.5 point underdogs to the Chiefs, but I think Jordan Love is going to do well. I think the team's going to rally, and I just think the Chiefs defense in particular is just in shambles. So I expect the Packers to focus on Aaron Jones. I still think Love is going to have a good enough game getting the ball to Devontae Adams. I think the Packers will either cover or outright win this game against the Chiefs. The other pick that I mentioned, we talked about the Raiders and the Giants. This one, I really wanted to pick the Giants. They're 3-point underdogs to the Raiders, but I think the Raiders coming off the bye week, they have a good chance to beat that. But I was hoping to kind of pick the Giants there. But the other big one was the Jets versus the Colts. So me and Tommy will have a little bet. I've got the Jets covering the 10-point spread. Tommy's got the Colts beating them. Basically, I'm banking on Carson Wentz throwing a couple interceptions, the Jets and Mike White continuing his Cinderella story. So I think they'll be able to cover. So we'll see what happens.
Michael Pittman's going to do well. Jonathan Taylor's going to do well. Darius Leonard is going to be all over the field. You're going to see 11 tackles, at least 1 or 2 sacks with a couple of quarterback pressures. That's what you're going to see.
You know what's going to help White as a quarterback if Michael Carter continues to emerge as a pretty decent fantasy player, and the backup tight end the backup running back Johnson is going to be able to help because both of them last week did pretty well. Johnson also almost rushed for 100 yards. I think he rushed for like 86 yards. If both those running backs can do well, they'll take pressure off of the quarterback. And I actually think I'm like you. I think they have a decent chance.
Hey, a couple of things. Now, Jed, I would not be surprised. The only thing I disagree with you is I think Jordan Love probably won't do well. I would not be surprised if it was A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones running all day. I would not be surprised if that's going to happen.
Well, especially if Devontae Adams, because right now, technically, he's still on COVID protocols, right? And so you're hoping that he's going to come back. But if he doesn't come back, you're going to have to go with those two running backs, and that's what they did last time. I also think Mercedes Lewis, the backup tight end, who's going to take over for Tonyan, he might be a good fantasy play for some people looking for a tight end.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I have a team that has both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. This is the first game I'm going to play both because I think you guys are right. I think there's going to be enough points to go around.
Yeah. Hey, one ad, especially with all of the Tonyan is out, everything like that, tight end. Have you guys been watching the tight end from the Pittsburgh Steelers, the rookie?
I picked him up in 2 leagues because he actually he's been a favorite of Ben Roethlisberger. Yep. He's been being looked at the red zone, and he's averaging 6 to 8 fantasy points. So I'm like you. If you need a good tight end, he's actually pretty decent.
For those who are watching, his name is Pat Freiermuth. He has 4 catches, 44 yards, and 1 touchdown last week. He has played 72% of all of the snaps and has done really well since J.J. Schuster went out with his injury, season-ending injury. So if you need a tight end, he is someone that you need to watch for as well, too, as someone to pick up.
I think historically, too, but Roethlisberger seems to go for these big tight ends when he's in the red zones. And so that's one of the reasons why I picked him up, just because I think he's always going to at least get a look from Roethlisberger.
Yep. A couple games I want to talk about, and then I know you guys want to talk about basketball. We've talked about the Jets. We've talked about the Jets and the Colts as well, too. The one that I want to look at is Broncos against the Cowboys. 6-1 Cowboys against the Broncos, 4-4. Melvin Gordon has 10 fantasy points in 5 games this season. He is running back 15. Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy returned in week 8 and have 4 catches for 39 yards, but has missed 6 games with a high ankle sprain. The Cowboys have allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards this season, but have allowed the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers in 2021. Jed, are you starting any of these guys in terms of Melvin Gordon or Jerry Jeudy?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely starting Jerry Jeudy. I told you guys last week I didn't want to start him, even though I knew he was going to play, because I wanted to see how he played. I thought that was a perfect little warm-up for him. Now, this week, I expect him to take back over as the number 1. I like this setup for him. I've got him in a couple of different flex spots, but if you have Jerry Jeudy, get him in your lineup. I think he's going to score.
Yep. Jim, the Vikings 3-4 against the Ravens, 5-2. Lamar Jackson has been decent, not very good, but decent as well too. Dalvin Cook has 18 plus carries in every game. Adam Thielen has been done pretty well. Mark Andrews has 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Thoughts on that game?
I actually think that Adam Thielen will continue to be pretty good from a fantasy standpoint. He's actually right now, at least the last couple of games, he's been better than Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins, I think, is consistent. He's going to get your, 19 to 20 fantasy points every week. I don't think Dalvin Cook has been the Dalvin Cook of past years, though. He's done decently, but it's not like he's gotten the fantasy numbers like he did last year. I do think the sleeper in the both games that you want to watch out for is Rashad Bateman. Every time I hear what people are saying, they said, don't sleep on this guy. He's really good. But the thing is, if you look at the waiver wires, he's still out there in quite a few leagues. I mean, I quite honestly haven't even picked him up. There are times where I look at him and says, maybe I should pick him up this week, because if I wait another week or 2, it might be too late, similar to the Michael Carter thing.
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens passing game is so suspect. I don't feel like it's consistent. I still don't get the Ravens team. Mm-hmm. Like one week I feel like they're the best team in the league. The next I think they're like the 10th. So it's so strange.
It's because they're not consistent, right? They're only based off of how Lamar Jackson is doing. Because if you look at the running game, they have no running backs whatsoever. Mm-hmm. If you look at the wide receivers, they have good receivers, but it's whether or not Lamar Jackson's even able to get the ball, because half the time he's trying to decide whether or not he wants to run.
And you know what? Now, if you think back to it, they beat the Chiefs this season, and we thought that was a really good sign. But now looking back on it, the Chiefs defense is horrible, and they barely won that game. And so it's just suspect. It's so interesting. You think about in the beginning of the season, they have these power rankings for, how hard your opponents are going to be. All of that gets flipped because the Chiefs defense is horrible. The people would have thought that would be a tough game. It's actually not.
The one good thing, I mean, I don't know if you noticed that it was like a Monday night football game or Sunday night football. I forgot which one it was, but that was the first game where everyone really clearly saw how to defeat the Chiefs, right? If you take out Kelsey, you take out Hill, essentially you force Mahomes to try to do something, and it doesn't work. So he either force-fed the ball to those two and got picked off, or he's just scrambling around, not knowing who else to throw to.
Yeah, basically they put two deep safeties so far back that Mahomes has nothing over 20 yards. It has to be passes under 20, and he hates that. And so, but it's so funny. You would think he would adjust. It's like, just go to the dink dunk strategy and you'll be fine. But they haven't adjusted.
Yeah, Chad, Bengals 5-3 against the Browns 4-4. The one person I want to talk with you about is, with Odell Beckham gone, Donovan Peoples-Jones leads the Browns wide receivers in fantasy points, and we'll see an increased role. Is he somebody that you want to start this week?
No, not me. I'm only playing running backs from the Cleveland Browns, and we got to see how they come out. That team has been so up and down. Same thing with Cincinnati. Remember, Cincinnati's coming off of this loss to the Jets. So I am a believer in Cincinnati, and if they are what I think they are, they should come out gangbusters and win this game. But we'll see. Both the Bengals and the Browns, again, just inconsistent.
Now, last week, Dearness Johnson, I mean, I had him. He had one touchdown, not too many yards. Is he somebody you're looking at for your flex, thinking that he might get a touchdown or two here, Jed?
Yeah, I mean, well, both Chubb and is Kareem Hunt back?
Nope, Kareem Hunt is gone. Only Chubb's.
Yeah,
not for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, so if Hunt is still out, then yes, I think Dearness Johnson, I mean, he's looked great. I mean, in the time that he's been in there, it is clear that he is more than capable of taking over those carries. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind putting either of those guys in.
Just so you know, the Browns. Go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm lagging right now for my internet.
All right, just so you know, Jed, going with what you're saying, the Browns have allowed the fifth most fantasy points to quarterbacks in 2021. They also have allowed 17 receiving touchdowns, tied for the third most in the NFL. I would not be surprised. Look, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, but you're going to see a lot of connections between Burrow and Chase this week.
Yeah, I think the passing game for Cincinnati is going to look good. I was debating, so I had Tyler Boyd. I just dropped him for Zach Moss in our league because I was debating the third Cincinnati receiver. To me, Boyd is third behind Higgins and Chase, or a Zach Moss who's hopefully the goal line back. So, but no, I expect if you got Tyler Boyd, get him in there. I think he's got a good shot.
Guys, I don't know if you're surprised by this, and I know, Jed, you picked him up in the league, but Joe Burrows at the end of this year could become the top 5 fantasy quarterback, right?
Well, and here's the thing. I've got Burrows and Kyler Murray, so you can't keep both in our keeper league, so I was debating, like, what do I do?
Because they think, it's Josh Allen right now, Tom Brady's doing pretty good, depending on how Kyler Murray, but Joe Burrows could be literally number 3, 4, 5 in fantasy points this year.
Yeah. Jim, Cardinals 7-1 against the 49ers 3-4. We talked about Kyler Murray. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins, but more on the San Francisco side. If the 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, is not able to play, JaMychal Hasty, Trey Sermon, who are you looking at, Jeff Wilson Jr.?
I would say Hastings is really the next person, but I actually didn't know that news about Mitchell. So it does make me rethink the strategy of not picking up a Trey Sermon. And because I still think he might be relevant as you're going to – if Mitchell is out for a while, Sermon automatically becomes somewhat relevant. The problem is the last few weeks he just hasn't played.
Yeah, I wonder what's been to me. I wonder if it's that he's just been missing the pickups on pass coverage, and that's why he's not getting in, because the talent is there. So he must not be doing something on the homework side that's keeping him out. But again, we've always said whoever starts in San Francisco's backfield, you want that guy because he'll produce.
Yeah, and the problem here is if you look at Hastings, right, and even Mitchell, that's the problem is they might do good one week, but they're injured the following week. And so that's why who is the consistent number 1 running back? And if you picked up a Sermon, you're really trying to guess which week he's going to end up doing pretty well.
Jed, last one. Bears against Steelers. 4-3 Steelers. Bears 3-5. There's really nothing to say about that. I mean, I really believe the Steelers will win. I mean, thoughts on that one? Allen Robinson is not doing well. Khalil Herbert is probably the only one from the Bears you're starting. Maybe it's Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I mean, again, we could probably bet on this one too. I really want to pick the Bears. I feel like Justin Fields, we still haven't seen his signature game. I mean, we've seen glimpses like that touchdown run he had last week, but I'd like to see him put together a signature game. I feel like he could do it against the Steelers. The Steelers have been, they're suspect and they're not consistent, and so I want to say they can put it together this week. I actually have both Herbert and Mooney on one team, and I was really debating. I didn't like starting both, so I agree with you. Herbert's probably the guy to go with, but I'm hoping that Fields can put it together and the Bears can sneak out a win.
Jay, you know one person who won't be watching that game?
Eli Manning and Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. They're skipping this game.
Here's the thing. Justin Fields had 26 fantasy points last week, right? And that's without Nagy coaching. I actually would love to see this week to see if he can somehow duplicate that. Even if they lost, if they can figure out how to duplicate that effort. I do think Allen Robinson is gone next year. But you're looking at Mooney, you're looking at Cole Kmet, you're looking at a Herbert. I actually think those pieces might be decent for them to at least try to build something around.
That's what we say every year, Jimmy.
I know, yeah. So, but I'm telling you, it's Nag. It's Nag. And the other thing, here's the thing. I don't fully trust the general manager for the Bears too, Ryan Pace.
Yeah.
Because if you look at his history, the first two picks always end up not doing well. He does really good towards the latter end of those, but that's where you get the Mooneys and the Herberts. You're going to get these mid-level guys, but you've lost out on the superstars.
As we wrap up, did any of you guys watch the World Series at all with the Braves winning against Houston Astros?
I didn't watch, but I'm so glad that Houston didn't win. I saw this graphic that said, all the fans for Atlanta for the U.S., it was all of U.S. and then only Houston was, and exactly same. If they had somehow won, I would have been so mad after that cheating scandal. I felt like they should have been stripped of that title. And so, I'm glad they didn't win.
Yeah. And also Soler, former Cub Jorge Soler, won the MVP. He was a midseason acquisition from the Kansas City Royals. Man, he did so well in the World Series.
Well, you saw the talent there. I remember during that one playoff run for the Cubs. I mean, he obviously had the talent. It just wasn't consistent yet. But how many former Cubs have won the MVP? I mean, we probably lost count at this point.
I mean, look at all the Cubs that are gone now, like the Schwarbers of the world, Rizzo. I mean, they all did things for their teams this season, especially during the playoffs.
Yeah, Jim, thoughts about the Bulls before we wrap up?
Yeah, they really shot up in power rankings, even above the. So I think number one is the Miami Heat, right? The Miami Heat. If you look at it, this last game I was watching them, they had Bam scoring 20-some points. They had Lowry scoring 27 points. Butler's doing well. And then also Tyler Hero, the guy who I picked up in our Dynasty League, because Tyler Hero says that he's just as good as Trae Young and also Luka Doncic. So I was like, he actually might be worth the flyer. And he's actually doing really well this year. Second is Utah Jazz, who came down for number one rankings. And number three is the Chicago Bulls, right above the Golden State Warriors. They just lost yesterday for Philadelphia, so you're hoping that's just a fluke, but they've been doing really well. DeMar DeRozan is actually now the leading scorer this season.
So, Jimmy, we should have developed some kind of a game where you could buy stock in teams and then as they go up the power rankings. Because remember, we can go back to our recording. When the season started, I said the Bulls were ranked 9th in the East, and I said that was ridiculous. They should be 3rd or 4th in the East, and now they're 3rd or 4th overall. I mean, I thought that was obvious from the preseason that this team was going to shoot up, and it's definitely a playoff team. There were experts out there saying they might not be a playoff team, which is ridiculous.
Do you guys remember? I don't think you've ever played this game. There was before fantasy basketball and football, there was this game called NBA Fantasy GM. And it was actually a game very similar to that. You can buy players for really, really cheap, right? And then as they go up, you can keep the players or you can sell them for a certain amount of money. But it was always really neat to be able to say you got, Jimmy Butler when he was like $1, and now he's worth $60.
Well, you can do that with trading cards now. I mean, the trading card market has shot up. And so you can definitely, you buy into rookies and then you see how their cards go and then you can sell. I mean, the trading card market is basically the stock market now.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
The only concern with the Bulls right now, with the injury to Patrick Williams, they don't have a lot of size. Because if you look at the center position, Vucevic just isn't. I mean, but after him, who else are you starting? So you've been seeing a lot of Caruso in the fourth quarter. Now, here's rumors I hear a little bit about is Thaddeus Young is not playing very much in the rotation. Former Bull. The Spurs might release him. They might trade him. He might be someone to target. Some people said, is Marvin Bagley from the Sacramento Kings someone that you want to take a shot at because you have a trade chip in Kobe White? So he clearly is from the old regime. Can you dangle him for a couple players?
Yeah, you're right. Size is one of the biggest issues, but the thing about Caruso, remember, he's been playing in the fourth quarter before the injury. And so he was definitely the guy they were planning to go to when it came down to the key minutes. I mean, this team is built to be small ball. It's built to be team-oriented, a lot of passing. So, but I agree, if they want to go deeper into the playoffs, they got to get more size.
Well, that's why, for me, I don't think they're going to trade a Kobe White, right? Because I think Kobe White fits into the type of basketball that they want to play. My guess is if they're going to trade someone, they're going to trade a Vucevic to go after one or two bigger guys for them. Because Vucevic, if you think about it, doesn't really fit clearly into the system because he's kind of a little slower. He needs to play half court. And he's right now the third or fourth option behind Lonzo Ball or Zach LaVine. And so my guess is they'll end up getting rid of him.
Yeah, those centers that do really well. Gobert does really well. Capella, Jared Allen. Those are the three guys I tend to like. Evan Mobley over at Cleveland has been doing really, really well.
Can you imagine if a guy like Capella or Gobert was on the Bulls with this group of people? Like I think they would be they would at least be one or two.
My only concern right now is DeMar DeRozan. He is playing out of his mind. He's performing, I would say, at a maybe 50-60% higher rate than I expected to start the season. I'm just not sure he can consistently do that. That's my only concern. Is this is just a early season blip, and that it might kind of have regression to the mean.
I think the other thing you also have to be concerned about is who is it? The coach even did say Zach LaVine isn't all there yet, and partly just because he injured his hand or finger, and so I think that's the other thing. He's not going to have surgery until the off season, but at some point, I feel like that's really going to affect him.
Well, Jim, you have to run to a meeting, and the rest of us have to go back to work. So we'll probably see and talk to each other on Tuesday.
Sounds good.